Hello and welcome back to Chapter 3 notes. That last video got cut off a little bit when I was trying to explain the incremental analysis and I was running out of time, so I'm just going to review that one pretty quickly. So again, what we did is we calculated the profit by taking our revenues of $650,000 minus our costs, which are given to us up here of $600,000, gives us an incremental profit of $50,000. And then we said, think about the company's reducing its selling price, and then it sells more units. So what we actually have to do is we have to figure out the original revenue by taking 325 times the 200 gives us 650, and then our new revenue, that's what I said up here, 290 times 275, and it's 275 because it says that the units sold will increase by 75,000. That gives us 797,500 minus the 650 gives us an increase in revenue, which is our incremental revenue of 147,500. Then what I did is I put my direct materials on a per unit basis to figure out the cost per unit of direct materials. It's 100,000 total cost divided by the 200,000 units, 50 cents per unit. I did the same thing with our direct labor, 200,000 divided by the 200,000 units. It's $1 per unit. Now that's a variable cost, and what we know about variable cost per unit is that they stay the same. So to figure out the extra materials cost and labor cost of adding 75,000, of making an additional 75,000 units, 75,000 times the 0.5 plus the 75,000 times 1. When you add those two together, that gives us the 112,500. This is the incremental cost. That's the incremental cost. And then when we figure out is this something we should do, we take the incremental revenue minus the incremental cost, and we do have an incremental profit. So yes, this is something that we should do. But one thing to keep in mind is it says up here, all overhead is fixed. So that means this fixed overhead will be incurred regardless of whether or not we do this, we take this action. So we incur the same amount of overhead, whether or not we do that. So therefore, it's not an incremental cost. It's not included down here because we would have it in the original scenario and we would have it in the new scenario. So it just doesn't matter. So we exclude it. We only look at the direct materials and direct labor costs because those are the ones that are incremental. And in this case, they're incremental because they're variable costs. They differ. If we make an additional 75,000 units, we have to have more materials and more labor to do so. Okay. So the fact is that with process costing, sometimes what we do is we're figuring out the total unit cost, the average unit cost. Problem with then taking that average unit cost times the 75,000 is that you would include fixed overhead. And fixed overhead is not going to be an incremental cost. Okay, so it shouldn't matter. When we look over here and talk about the basic steps in process costing, again, this page just kind of summarizes this. I'll let you read that. And I'm not going to go over that verbatim. And I do have two additional problems. These are CMA questions, okay? And so we will take a look at these right now. So we say our first one, Levittown employs a process costing system for its manufacturing operations. All materials added are at the beginning of the process. All conversion costs are added proportionally during the accounting period. And in the production process, here's our production quantity schedule. Calculate the equivalent units for materials and for conversion, okay? So we're going to say over direct materials. Remember, that's equal to, so we're looking at the denominator for calculating the average cost per unit. Remember, what that's equal to is the units completed plus the equivalent full units in ending WIP. So I'm going to say units completed. How many units did I complete? Well, it's a little bit confusing the way that they like to show this. Right? You could say, here's our beginning WIP, and then your units started, total units to be accounted for. So they're showing you like a unit reconciliation. Then they say units completed and transferred out from beginning inventory. It says completed. Right? It says completed. And then units started, and then these that were also started during the accounting period, but they were also completed. 4,000 units completed. Okay? Plus equivalent full units in ending WIP. Well, how many units are in ending WIP? there are 2,000 units. And it says here, all materials were added at the beginning of the process. So that means we have the 2,000 units times 1 because they're 100% complete. So that means our equivalent full units of production is 6,000 for materials, the 4,000 plus the 2,000. For our conversion, we have the same thing. Remember, 1,000 and then 3,000, so we have 4,000 units completed plus equivalent full units ending WIP, which is going to be equal to our 2,000 times our 0.2, which equals our 400. So that means, with respect to conversion, it's 4,400 units. Okay? And again, they're different between materials and conversion because they're different percent completes. Materials, 100% complete. How do I know that? It says it right there. Okay? Let's look at the second one. And again, I think with this one, what I would encourage you to do is to stop the lecture video, try to solve this yourself, and then come back and check it. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go over it. So it says our company is a sporting goods manufacturer, buys wood as the direct materials for baseball bats. They have a forming department that processes the baseball bats, and then bats are transferred to the finishing department. So we have a forming department and a finishing department. And the finishing department is where they add some sealant. Okay? The forming department began manufacturing 10,000 baseball bats. Okay? They had no beginning WIP. Here's their cost. Materials costs, and then conversion costs. Total of 8,000 bats were completed and transferred to finishing. Of the remaining 2,000 that were in ending WIP, right? All of the direct materials were in process, but on average, only 25% of the conversion costs had been applied to ending WIP. Okay? So calculate the cost of the units transferred out, calculate the cost of ending WIP. Okay? So I'll go ahead. So cost units completed. Remember, I'm going to do this separately for materials, for direct materials, and for conversion. So with my DM, I'm going to take my 33,000 cost, right up here, divided by, I'm going to say 8,000 units completed, plus I have the 2,000 units, and those were 100% complete. Okay? What I'm doing here now is I'm calculating out my cost per unit. So $3.30 average cost per unit for materials. And for conversion, I'm going to take my 17,000 divided by my 8,000 plus my 2,000 times 0.25. Okay? So we can come over here, we can take our 17,000 divided by our 8,500, which is equal to 2. So our total cost per unit will be $5.30. 3.3 plus the 2. Okay? And then what we say is the cost of the units complete. I'll come back over here. How many units were completed? 8,000 times my 5.3, which is going to be equal to my 42,400. And then the cost of units ending WIP. Cost ending WIP. I come over here and I have to do it separately from materials and for conversion, remember? So I come over here. How many units are in ending WIP with respect to materials? 2,000 times the cost per unit of 3.3, which equals 6,600. And I come over, how many units were over here? 500 times the 2 gives me $1,000. And then the total of ending WIP is, therefore, $7,600. Okay? $7,600 in the cost of ending WIP. All right, that concludes our Chapter 3 notes from process costing. Thank you.